Hello, it's Leontine from Little Lovely Crafts. Today's card is especially made for the Lawn Fawnatics Challenge Create a Scene. I thought I'd create a relaxing bath time scene. And as you can see, it's a pull tab card. I recently purchased the Rubber Dub Dub set, and you can already find a lot of cards on the internet with the mice in the bathtub, so I decided to use the bears instead. I'm going to color them with my Copic sketch markers. The colors are listed down below and on my blog. If you want to skip ahead, you can go to about 3 minutes and 55 seconds. I'm going to add a little shine to those bubbles with my Nuvo Aqua Shimmer Glitter Gloss Pen. Off camera, I die cut all of my images. I'm going to tell you something about the bathtub a little later. First, I want to tell you what I'm doing here. I'm cutting the arms because I want the arms to hold the rubber duck. I'm using an Exacto knife to do this. I stamped the bath and the bubbles as one big stamp, and I found out later that those dies are separate. So what I did was I partially die cut the bathtub and I partially die cut the bubbles, and then I used my scissors to make those lines meet. I'll be using this piece of Spiffy Speckles paper. It's the 6x6 pack for the floor of my bathroom. I'll be using the brick stencil with some of my new Nuvo Glacier Paste to make a nice tiled wall. And the color I've got here is called Sea Sprite. I'm going to show you all of the cardstock pieces that I'm going to use for this card. This is the stitched scalloped rectangle frames. I used the outside-in stitch rectangle frames on some white cardstock and also on my Spiffy Speckles paper. And I used my stitched rectangle frames to make this little border, and as you can see I cut it because I'm only going to need that little piece right there. I still need to cut that floor piece, but I'm going to do that a little later, but this is the layout I drew for this card. I'm going to use my pencil to mark where I'm going to cut that border. And as you can see, I've cut the floor to about 4 centimeters. Now I'm going to work on that stencil. I've used a little bit of tape runner to keep my cardstock in place, and I'm going to place my stencil on top of it. As you can see, it's not as straight as it should be, and I'm figuring out which side of my stencil is best. But I also decided to use a little bit of painter's tape to really make sure that it stays in place, along with those magnets, of course. Anyway, I'm getting my Nuvo Glacier Paste out for the first time, and I'm going to smear it all over the stencil. I'm leaving out the bottom part because that's going to be covered up with my floor piece. I'm going to leave it to dry, and I'm scraping off the excess paste because it's clean and I haven't used any ink. I can just scrape it back into the bottle so I can use it the next time. I waited a few hours to continue this card, and as you can see it's fully dried and it's very shiny. I didn't really know it would be that shiny, but it's still pretty. It's warped a little, but it will be fine because I'm going to run it through my die cut machine a few times and that will really flatten it. I've put some glue behind the rubber duck, and I'm going to use glue and thin foam squares to attach that bear who's handing the boat to his brother or sister. I'm also using liquid glue to attach that border to the floor, and I'm only putting glue on the bottom half. Now that entire piece can be glued to the back of my scalloped frame. And then that piece can be glued to my stencil background. Since I already know it's going to be a pull tab, I die cut that little piece I need for it. I'm going to trace around the arms of the bear, and then I'm going to cut off the pieces that I don't need. You'll see me cutting off a piece of the bottom as well, because otherwise it was sticking out from under the bathtub. I'm figuring out the right placement, and then I can make a slot for my pull tab mechanism to go through. I'm going to use that little die on both the front and the back of my card, and that's because I'm going through multiple layers of cardstock and it has a little bit of trouble doing that. Right now, it's where I realized that my mechanism was getting stuck on that border that I created, so I'm cutting off a little bit of that border to make sure that my mechanism from the pull tab has enough space to move around. And I tore the paper a little bit while doing that, but it's okay because the bathtub is going to cover it. To figure out the next step, I'm going to use my thick foam squares to place the bathtub around the bear. And I figured out I needed to cut them in half, otherwise the foam is interfering with my mechanism. But before I can do anything, I kind of forgot to make a notch, so I'm quickly doing that. Luckily I used some tape runner to attach my bear, so I can just pull him off and then do what I need to do. I'm going to keep that piece that is going to be cut out because I'm going to glue that back on a little later. I'm going to use some score tape to attach this piece that also comes in the Let's Toast pull tab add-on set, and that's to keep the tab from going left to right. And now I'm working on the top of the card. I'm going to place that little piece that came out of the notch die and I'm going to trace it. And then I can just cut it off of that pull tab and then attach my little piece of cardstock on top of it, and it looks pretty and seamless again. I reattached my bear with my tape runner. I adhered the bathtub, making sure that I have enough space for Mama Bear on the right, and also making sure that the foam tape isn't in the way of my mechanism. I decided I wanted to make a stopper as well because I don't want my bear to pop up too high from the bathtub. So I figured out where I want the bear to stop, turned the card around, and I'm placing a piece of scrap cardstock just above that piece that moves up and down. And that's going to stop my bear from going up too high. The bear in front of the bathtub kind of seems like he's floating because of that foam tape, so I'm making sure that I'm gluing my rug at a position where it at least looks like he can touch it with his feet. Remember, I colored some extra bubbles. I'm going to have my bear throw them up in the air because he's popping out of the bath, and I'm using some small strips of acetate with score tape to do it. And I'm just attaching it to the back of the bear. As you can see, I'm kind of figuring out where I should place it, and once it's all attached, I can just snip off that little piece of acetate that's sticking out from the bubbles because we don't want to see that. I'm using thick foam squares to attach Mama Bear, and I'm using thin foam squares to attach the soap. I've got a card base of 5.5 and 4 1/4, and I'm using the larger, thicker foam squares to go all around the card to make sure that my front panel is attached to my card base. I got my black licorice ink and 2 sentiments from the Rubber Dub Dub set, and I'm stamping it on white cardstock. Then I'm using my Fazen Creative mini trimmer to go around it, and I'm also using my Fazen Creative corner punch to make some round edges. I'm going to attach my sentiment with some thin glue dots. I want to place an arrow at the top so my recipient knows that they have to do something with this card, and I'm using Lawn Fawn sunflower cardstock. The last thing I'm going to add are some glossy accents to all of the bubbles, and of course that's going to be wet, so I'm not going to touch the card until it's very dry again. I managed to wait until the next day to take a photo of my card, and this is the result. I hope you liked watching the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and I would also love it if you would subscribe to my channel. I'll be back with a new video very soon. Have a great day. Bye!